I am thrilled to kick off kind of our first Fireside Chat series here with Jack Miner, Chief Investment Officer at TEDCO. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So from our previous presentations, I think we've seen how public and private partners are shoring up Maryland's strategic positioning in the global logistics economy across both air and sea networks. So given TEDCO's unique mission as the state's engine for early stage technology growth and commercialization, how are you translating this into a competitive advantage? And then additionally, could you kind of detail some investments that you're making in this key growth sector?
Sure, and thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm here because my boss can't be. He's traveling, but they don't let me out much, so it's fun to be out. And really appreciate the opportunity to talk about what TEDCO does. So TEDCO is a strategic direct investor on behalf of the state of Maryland. We have about $200 million in assets under management. And we invest in early stage technology companies on behalf of the taxpayers. And so the legislators provide capital to TEDCO, and we are literally in debt to them in terms of putting that capital to work. So I say all that to talk about some of the things that we do. And I've got one of the coolest jobs in the world. It's kind of like working at the Discovery Channel, where we see really cool technologies coming in all the time. The energy from the entrepreneurs is super high. And I mean, just for example, here at the stadium, we have a technology that's a kiosk type technology that could check for foreign bodies from a security standpoint, but the reason it was developed initially was to do a temperature check of people as they came in back during COVID. So that was the original application. From a transportation standpoint, we've got some really cool technologies that we've invested in, or companies we've invested in. If you are a single or if I'm taking my kids to the airport, I can get on an application and I can say, I'm about ready to get through security. I've got three kids under the age of 8, and I need some help. And you get a concierge service that is available to you to help navigate through the airport. We've also got a robotic sanding technology, so airplanes can drive into a hangar, robots sand it down, cuts the time down by 70% in terms of keeping those airplanes in the air. I was thinking about when Nikki was talking about what we've got at BWI Marshall. We also have a company that can take heavy payloads in a drone and deliver them. And so if you think about all the things we have, the drone technology, the customer service technology, the ability to keep airplanes in the air more quickly, there's lots of ways for us to supplement a lot of the big ideas that are going on in the greater Baltimore area.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, thank you for those examples. I think
How was that for a short summary?
that's a perfect summary, and short, nonetheless, too. Well, thank you for that. I think it's pretty safe to say, right, from the $1 billion+ investment happening at Sparrows Point to kind of the flurry of startup activity that you described, there's healthy growth occurring. How do we sustain this growth? How do we nurture it? And what are some evergreen challenges to kind of get out in front of so that we really nurture startup activity here, specifically in transportation and logistics?
Yeah, so this is the third state that I've worked for. I worked in Michigan, worked in Ohio, and now here. And no state really has the corner on the market of the challenge of providing growth capital for these early stage technology companies. But they get to a certain point where they can no longer advance and need additional capital to do so.
All right. So that's actually a really good point to raise. And if I could kind of pull out a takeaway here, it sounds like, to kind of be a leader in this sector amongst others is to provide scalable solutions mature late-stage funding, something where, right, we can provide a Rolodex of investment offerings that uniquely position Maryland and the region in that kind of funding conversation. Is that kind of true to say there?
Yeah, I think that, going back to that growth stage technology, companies are getting $250 million to advance their technology, get to a certain stage, but because there's not the $10 million check, they need to go elsewhere, and oftentimes we see them leaving our portfolio and going to other states where they can get that capital. Yeah. And so we've started to change the way we look at things, and our mission will always be for the benefit of Maryland, but we need to look at local, state, then regional, and national, and even internationally, what can we do to help these companies grow? And it's not always capital. In fact, capital is kind of I'm sure that there are entrepreneurs who would argue with me, but capital is almost the easiest thing to get if you've got everything else in place. So we're really looking at how do we develop those investment vehicles from a growth standpoint for the over 150 portfolio companies that we manage.
Yeah. Well, and coincidentally, the transportation and logistics sector, a notoriously capital-intensive sort of startup, hard tech sort of scene. So, with those challenges and with capital being a challenge, but also supporting, what's a strategic investment? What's a strategic product? Maybe a partnership that TEDCO is looking at in particular? Raising those challenges and kind of acknowledging them going forward.
Yeah, I think there's two areas that we're really focused on right now, both in that growth capital and then in that expansion capital, if you will. And from the expansion capital standpoint, I was talking with Tom earlier about what BlackRock did in the Panama Canal, and it's a really interesting and difficult thing to have private equity or foreign investment go into such a strategic asset. And so trying to make sure that happens in such a way that it's nationally secure for the U.S., but also a good deal for private equity. And so when we're looking at that, this kind of gets into that trajectory of local, state, national, and international. We think that one of the things that we should do, and Secretary Coker is very much encouraging us to look at this, is a $1 billion fund that would be private equity, public, and really do similar to what BlackRock has done in Panama. The second thing that, and I'm excited to announce the first step towards our opportunity fund, received notice this morning that we were accepted into the Korean Venture Investment Corporation for our $100 million opportunity fund. And so we've got a long way to go. It's going to take us a while to get there, but we're very excited about that. So that's the growth capital. So we've got the growth capital with the opportunity fund and then the $1 billion decade fund.
Right. Well, that's really exciting, and thanks for that announcement and kind of look ahead of what we can expect and creating those channels for both private equity and other sorts of capital to find their way to Maryland and continue to provide that healthy lifeblood and fuel for the future. So with that said, I want to thank you for joining us this morning, for announcing this and really giving us kind of that insight of what a capital strategy might look like going forward. I want to invite the audience to also thank Jack for sharing in this conversation.
Thank you, Patrick.
Absolutely.